Joined now by Dylan Sinn, our good friend, joins us each week from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette. How are you, my man?
I'm good, guys. I'm good. Thanks for having me on. Always glad to be here.
Always love to have you. Last night, of course, a couple of things. We were down in Starlight, which that's a long haul for you. It's the opposite end of the state, so you didn't make it down. But we had the opportunity to speak with Mike Whitson for the first time since Albany, New York. Xavier Johnson for the first time since way before that. Tom Allen
since the North Carolina game, I think.
Probably. Jalen Lucas as well. Man, that dude is so small. I cannot believe what he does on the football field. I'm not kidding.
He's electric, man.
He's a micromite.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look, if you put him in a lineup with 5, 10 guys of various stages, and said, I'll give you $10,000 if you can pick out the most incredible electric player in this group. I couldn't have done it. He is, I mean, I'm thinking he's 5'5", 5'6", maybe.
He's listed at 5'9", but no way. No way.
Bull in cleats on a hill, maybe.
But
that shows you, for one thing, that dynamics don't always. You don't have to be big for dynamics, because what he does on the football field is, he was an All-American. People, you don't become an All-American for for mishits and giggles. Boy, how about that?
I mean, I have to believe that was the reason he wasn't really highly thought of as a recruit, right? Because the shiftiness was there as a recruit. The speed was there. People just had to see it. IU saw it. And obviously when you're IU, you kind of have to find these diamonds in the rough to get players like Jalen Lucas. But he was ranked like 920th in his class. There aren't 50 players in the country who were better as true freshmen last year than Jalen Lucas. He was fantastic.
Well, it reminds me of our good friend Mitchell Page, who is a former Indiana football player. I think graduated probably 16, maybe.
So I think he was part of that team that played the bowl game against Duke. So 16 sounds right.
Yeah, he probably some same dimensions. We're talking about similar dimensions. I remember him telling me, going to school up at Garin Catholic, north of Indy, that he remembers recruiters coming in, and he would be sitting in the coach's office or something, and he could see him look in as they walked by, and they just kept going, didn't even come in. And I'm like, wow. But he ends up walking on to Indiana and becoming a force in the Big Ten. He then almost made it in the NFL, but played over in Europe for a long time. Man, this dude is just he's got it. He's got something that you can't put your finger on, for one thing.
Yeah.
And you can't tackle it very well either, apparently.
And I like what I've heard from IU at the end of last season and this offseason, which is, we're going to get that dude the ball. Like it's one thing to have a weapon. It's one thing to have a weapon like that.
Exactly what Tom Allen said last night at Huber's. He said, I know that the one thing you all want is to get Jalen Lucas the football.
Yeah. I mean, because it's one thing to have a dude like that. It's another to utilize them in a way that maximizes their potential, right? And I think that IU started to do that at the end of last season. Honestly, it's tough that Dexter Williams got hurt when he did, because I thought that Dexter Williams was really well suited to running in that backfield with Jalen Lucas, and then also having the threat of the passing game, because Williams has a good arm. And the option play they ran for a 75-yard touchdown against Purdue, that was the most exciting play IU had the entire season. It was the thing that made you say, okay, there's something here that you can build on for the future. And then, of course, the very next drive, Dexter Williams gets hurt, and then Tom Allen says last night he won't be ready for the season. So you just got to hope that Taven Jackson can run those same plays. I don't think Taven Jackson is quite the athlete that Dexter Williams is. But I think that it would be good for IU to put them in similar situations.
I agree with that because IU is really hurting at quarterback right now. They don't have a guy. But even if they had Dexter Williams, they obviously had instant success with him, which almost makes any argument after that moot, pointless, shut up, don't even start. But I'm going to anyway. He can't throw the ball.
I don't know if that's true. There were some throws that he made that you say there's some potential here.
Somebody does not have the confidence in him or something. He threw 2 passes against the win they had in Michigan State.
Well, the weather was terrible that day. It would have been, and they were running all over Michigan State. It would have been malpractice to make him throw, and they won the game. I think if he had stayed healthy against Purdue, I think you would have seen them throw the ball in that game.
How many IU quarterbacks have gone down, or how many times has an IU quarterback gone down with an injury in the last 6 years?
It's a lot. Yeah,
that's got to be. That's close to 6 times.
Yeah, because it happened 3 times for Penix. Jack Tuttle got hurt. Obviously,
Jack Tuttle got hurt twice, but not last year. But then, they've got to protect the quarterback, man.
But that was the thing is, and that's why you don't want to. If you can avoid it, you don't want to base your offense around the quarterback run game because it opens them up to injury. Now, IU tried to avoid that as much as possible. None of Michael Penix's injuries came because he was running. It was all it stinks, but they were fluke things, right? But the Dexter Williams ran on that play. I believe it was a run, but I don't think it was a designed run. I think it was a scramble. And I think he had gotten the first down before getting hurt against Purdue, if I recall correctly. So it's not like they're putting the quarterback in harm's way on purpose. It's just been a string of bad luck and obviously poor offensive line play. That doesn't help, obviously.
Well, that's the whole crux of the issue right there. And I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, but Indiana was at the precipice of Tom Allen had this program. He had the Titanic turned. And I mean, that's a hard job. He had it turned around. He had the fan support. And boy, then he did 2 things that will forever, because recovering now is going to be difficult. But the hiring of I can't remember his name now.
Nick Sheridan.
Nick Sheridan.
That and mainly and keeping Darren Hiller after everyone on God's green earth begged and was clamoring about the poor play there and how it directly was a link of that. And look what happened the minute he was replaced. They had improvement almost instantaneously.
Yeah.
But I hate to say that, but both of those go back to Tom, his failure to make that change and his failure to not make that mistake, which should not have been made.
They stem from the same issue, right? Which is that Tom Allen is a loyal guy. He has his guys, and he wants to succeed with his guys. Now, when they were looking for an offensive coordinator going into the 2020 season after Kalen DeBoer had left, they could have gone out and hired someone really good and really qualified. Michael Penix.
They could have had that job was the hottest offensive coordinator job in the country at that moment.
At that point, because Michael Penix is a guy you want to work with if you're an offensive coordinator.
He's going to be a Heisman Trophy candidate next season.
I think he's going to win the Heisman Trophy next year. You heard it here first.
Wow!
But
boom, hot take.
I don't know how hot of a take it is. That dude is really, really good.
He's
But
awesome.
he's awesome. And look,
He's awesome, and he's with Kalen DeBoer.
yes. Now, but that's my thing is that Kalen DeBoer is great. He is a great coach. He did a great job at IU, but he is not the only one who would be having a success with Michael Penix, right? There are guys out there that IU could have hired in 2020 who would have had success with Michael Penix, even beyond the level he had in 2020 and especially in 2021. And Nick Sheridan just was not that guy, and they promoted from within. And we've seen that a lot in college football over the last few years. There's been kind of it's become a trend to promote from within if you can. And I think that after a certain point, yeah, there are guys where it's obvious that this is the guy. I think Marcus Freeman at Notre Dame is an example of that. As someone who covers Notre Dame, that was just the hire you had to make. But for an offensive coordinator position at IU going into a really crucial season, which 2020 was, and as great as 2020 was, it could have been better with a better offensive coordinator. They could have won that game against Ohio State with a better offensive coordinator. They could have. If there's a chance that Penix stays healthy, all of it. I don't want to put the injury of Michael Penix on Nick Sheridan, of course. But
the Ohio State game, they would have won if they had not fumbled twice inside the 15 and thrown a pick six.
Yep, that's true, right? But I guess my point is that there are guys out there that would have had even more success with Michael Penix than they did in 2020, and especially in 2021. And it is if Tom Allen ends up leaving IU within the next few years, I think a big reason why will be that he stuck with his guys for too long.
Absolutely, I agree with that 1,000%.
And what I never understood too at that time was when you do that, when you're able to do what Kalen DeBoer did at Indiana, you get a head coaching job. That was evident. I mean, he got the job at Fresno State, and I know he had ties, obviously, to that program beforehand, so that obviously helped. At the same time, if there's another guy that's more talented that can come in, say, hey, if you're able to be successful, you've got evidence that you can go on and get another job. And at that time, it's almost like a high risk, or how do I want to say this? Low risk, high reward. Because at the same time, if you're not successful at Indiana, there's probably going to be a lot of stabs that are like, well, it was Indiana. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like you could have drawn anybody in. And so the idea that, well, we want Nick Sheridan learned under Kalen DeBoer. We want to keep the system the same. It's just one of the most puzzling decisions. I don't think anybody thought it was ever going to be as bad as it was in 2021. But, man, like Jim said, it's going to be tough to kind of recover at this point now.